Saturday. In the afternoon, all times. Whoa.
Okay, we'll try and do this in sections to be as fair as we can, so we'll go up and down and down the middle. So, who wants to go first? This side. Man in the middle. Okay. Wait for the mic. There's a mic coming.
For me, the logic is undeniable. There's no two ways about it for me. Unfortunately, I feel quite emotional at the moment. Unfortunately, because people can be quite superficial when you're talking to them about this idea. What would you say to anybody who just doesn't like the idea of the planet turning into a massive circular cities and potentially destroying the landscape of our cultural heritage?
Well, cultural heritage always changes. It's always a process of evolution. So I think, people are romantically inclined to support this system. I try to call them out on the fact that throughout the entire history of humanity, we've constantly changed. We've constantly evolved and done different things, typically associated with the advancement of technology. As far as the circular cities, not everything has to be circular. I think there's a misconception when people see that. They think that, the ideal, as pointed out, I talked about the logic of simply having a circular city. It's equidistant. You can move more easily. It's an ideal. Jot designs all sorts of city structures. Many of them are very much almost traditional, if you will. They're meandering. Different land masses have different requirements. It's the mechanics of it that's important. It's the sustainability attributes. It's making things as efficient as possible with the most efficient use of energy, with the allocation of where the food supplies are to come from. All the attributes that are talked about in the film, it's really the design, it's the logic of the design, not the design itself. The logic makes the design. So you could have a very different visual structure in different locations depending on what you have. Like if you're in a big geothermal region, you might have a very different structure based around where the residential areas are, where they gain power from geothermal. The industrial center would be off to a completely different area. So you see my point? So it's explicitly based on the reasoning of the region. So it builds itself. That's the beauty of the resource-based economy, is it's self-defining if the interest is to be at peak sustainability, which is the term that I use. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and in terms of efficiency, I don't think anybody can disagree. I think people sometimes they bug about the character being lost.
Yeah, I understand that. Again, it's a romanticism. People, I think if we look back into, you go to ancient Rome, and you look at the ruins, you think to yourself, maybe New York City would look like some atrocity to those living in the Roman Empire. You know what I mean? So we don't have the luxury at this day and age to worry about ostentatious aesthetic issues as far as I'm concerned. To me, in my personal opinion, I think it's beautiful. I like the way an airplane looks because it's efficient. They can't create little ornaments on it because it's defined by the artistic attribute is defined by the efficiency that's required. I think in all of Jacques' designs, people say, oh, you're very creative. He'll actually sit and explain everything that comprises the curves and why they reflect the style that they do. There's a reason. It's utilitarian. But it's also artistic. It's inevitable natural formation, driven intervention from the need to be sustainable and efficient at all costs. So I just think, to me, the warmest thing I could ever see is really a beautiful building that's designed beautifully to be sustainable. Not what it looks like, not the ornament and the fixtures, but the fact that it works so incredibly well. To me, that's my romanticism. I'm attracted to that as beauty on every level. So there's differences of opinion. So that's kind of what I would say. I would challenge someone's opinion and say, well, I think differently than that. Would you prefer to live in a really inefficient hut that has no heat, that can't support you, that is not self-enclosed, that requires all this external stuff and maintenance, or would you like to have a home that can last your entire lifetime with virtually no maintenance, that is self-sufficient, self-supporting? I think if you draw the utilitarian arguments, you bring them up to people, they'll quickly concede, I think. What matters in the end? Does it really matter what things look like in the long run? I think we tend to be aesthetically driven just because we grow up into it and we identify with it. I have plenty of artistic things and visual things that I identify with I think they're beautiful. Walking around London, there's always just amazing old architecture. But I see it and I appreciate it for the romanticism of it, but I also know that things change. And it's more important, I think our survival is more important than efficient survival in the long run is more important than just, the aesthetic romanticism. So I think most would agree in the long run. But that's an argument that you can use if you encounter someone that says, oh, I don't want to live in that, it's ugly. What kind of rationality is that,
Okay. Done? Thank you. Somebody in the middle? Anybody in the middle? Guy in the green here, Jay? This guy in the green in front row.
Hi dear. Sounds great. My name is James. I'm a researcher at Oxford University in environmental studies.
Okay.
And I also want to work on this theme of efficiency, ask a question about efficiency. It seems to me that the efficiency that is required to sort of bring about global sustainability and sort of equality for everybody, that's a function of sort of three things really. The resources we have available, the population of the planet, and the quality of life that we want. And until we've determined what those three things are, do you think there's a danger in saying things like efficiency at all costs, given that could lead to a loss of certain cultural attributes like architecture that people appreciate in the here and now?
Well, efficiency at all costs, I think, is simply a general rule that, we could get to a point where the efficiency, that extra 1% of efficiency is not necessary. You don't have to go through that just to get that little extra bit, because maybe things are so sustainable that there's such an ease already that this population is satisfied, it's not necessary. If you go back to the third point you mentioned in that list that you had regarding where the needs are, really, in effect, our needs should be related to what is possible with the internal structure, the inferential logic coming up from what I call natural law, based on what the Earth can support, based on what we're defined by the environment that we're born into, and we have to align with it. So the maximization of utility, if you will, this approach really defines our needs, and we really have no choice but to kind of fall in line with natural law. You know what I mean? People have a tendency to be very personal in their lives, personal in their views, thinking that they have some freedom of thought that somehow exceeds their reality. I'm sorry, that doesn't really work that way. We have to align with things, and our values should be derived. So it goes the other way around, is my point.
Yeah, as an environmentalist, I'm very sympathetic to that argument. But my point is that I think we could get to a stage where we can produce, where we don't have to be super efficient, where everything doesn't have to be around precision.
Right, yeah. I understand.
And so how do you determine that?
Well, that's what I just commented on, that extra 1%, or that extra 5%, or that extra 10%. I mean, it's not like it can be a stickler and go, well, you have to do all this and this and this. If things are working properly and they're sustainable and there's limited negative retroactions and everyone's happy, we don't have some kind of deep poverty here, or we don't have pollution here, or deforestation here, or peak oil here, or any kind of peak resource. If everything is in balance and is being maintained, then it becomes kind of a moot issue. If it's working and everyone's satisfied, there's no reason to have to go to some crazy, extreme length of efficiency. Sure.
Okay, can we go to the right now? This person here as well?
Hi. Can you hear me? Good. I just want to say I've been successfully brainwashed by the movie. Thank you very much indeed. Job done. I wanted to say I think the film's amazing at dissecting the evils inherent in our money system, which are palpable and there for everyone to see. I also think it's a great advert for your resource-based economy. It looks a bit like utopia porn to me in some instances.
Excuse me, can you ask the question?
Yeah, sure. What I'm basically saying is I think the film's weak in terms of describing the transition from the place we're in now to the place that you're advertising. And that's the real problem that I have there. I can't wait to be in that world, but how do we get there?
there's only so much I as an individual and my conditioning, my temperament, and my intellectual capacity can say. I couldn't sit here and tell you how to, quote, change the world. That's going to come from another place. That's going to come from, well, first of all, it's going to be navigated dynamically by what I consider to be the collapse of civilization because of what's outlined in the film. You're going to have problems and pressures that are going to emerge. You're going to have people seeking solutions to override them. And the hopeful thing that will happen is that this type of direction, this logic will pull through, as opposed to people falling back in some other outdated view. Critical mass, though, is really what I'm going for. As I addendum, it started there, where I made that point about the need for critical mass. And it's, if this film doesn't carry over into the activist angle, but in the Zeitgeist movement, I talked to extensive lengths about the need to get people together across the world. And once you have enough people, you begin to put pressure on the establishment. You begin to have, you begin to have economic conferences with scientists that are behind it that can show the complete redesign of North America. That show you, boom, here it is. And you get other country leaders or whomever to start to think about it. And you, in my mind, you develop a parallel structure, a parallel group of people that want to do something completely different. And hopefully, again, the logic will pull through. And the timing will be such that it hits a tipping point, and the powers that be are willing to accept, or maybe will be forced to accept, based on the uprising and civil unrest and everything else that's happening, which I think will continue. That's how I see it, loosely speaking, a transition occur. But there's so many things that you really can't predict. So, but at the very base level, you have to get the world to want it. You have to get people across the world, across all borders, because this is a global concept, to want this.
Can I just say as well, it struck me that it wouldn't be this is the sort of thing that everybody has to sign up to in order for it to work, surely. If you're talking globally, well, what are you going to do with people that insist on being irrational?
Well, I think the term, the Amish exists today. The Amish have isolated communities. The Amish have chosen to live lifestyles. And there are many other, religiously oriented subcultures that live very, very differently than the modern capitalist, global society that we have now. So you can accommodate those things. If someone doesn't see the efficiency, if they're really against it, there's no reason that, that there's some animosity there. But they have to understand that if, 60% of the world population wants to live in a resource-based economy and 40% don't, well, you can only hope that a compromise can be made. But I think actually those statistics that I just mentioned are kind of inaccurate. More like 90% of the population wants to live, because you really do need global resource access, back to your first point. And then the other 10% can be supplied with what they need. But what would you do if you were the other 10%? You're watching everyone live in a very nice, so I believe that they would come over to the other side to see the fruits of this. In fact, I have more respect for the Amish and these more simplistic subcultures than I do for this modern capitalist world that's hell-bent on destroying itself. So, see my point. It really comes down to where the stability is. And I think that in the education of anyone, they'll begin to reconcile that it's in their best interest to join a system that's actually sustainable and hopefully progressive and be willing to accept these changes.
Sure. Okay, back to the left-hand side here. We'll come back to you.
Hi. About 4.5 weeks ago, my eldest son, sent me an email link to see this film I've just seen again. Since then, I've spent most of my time on the internet following things.
Steve, please. What's your question? Yeah.
All right.
Please.
Question.
Time for other people. Yeah.
Very, very recently, the world has had some big things with revolutions or the beginnings of revolutions in North America and the Middle East. And we've seen what happened yesterday in Japan and the nuclear explosion this morning. And it struck me after watching Al Jazeera and now Democracy Now! How we have to develop that way. On the internet, there's been discussion amongst us lot about getting a citizen. We need communication first, proper, and to get some proper websites with. I think we have hundreds of chapters. Every chapter should be asked, get a team going with camera, film, and do things. Develop yourselves, develop your abilities. That's what I'd like to do. Work with myself, with the London chapter to do that. And developing skills, I think, is very important. It's the third linchpin, along with resource-based economy, technology, and human skills, and developing those abilities.
I agree. Thank you. to do. I mean, and as far as the city goes, you mentioned building the city. Building a test city, building something that we can show the world what's capable is the intent. Building an isolated community, though, and shutting yourself off and saying, okay, we have our sustainable, that's not going to fly in the current climate. So I just want to reiterate that if anyone thinks that that's a solution. There's nowhere to hide anymore. It's either the world learns that its survival is contingent on it learning to work together, or it continues its slow, grueling breakdown. So.
But just very briefly, because my daughter this morning, when I told her I was coming here, that's run by this guru, this deity. The leader who says there should be no leadership.
I'm sorry,
that's why human development is, for me, the third linchpin of the zeitgeist movement.
Okay, thank you. Sure. We've got this guy at the front here who's been waiting a while. I'll come back to you guys now.
Hi, Peter. Darren.
Hi.
Pretty much agree with everything you just said there in terms of how the world's going to go. I've spoken to many, many people who read, who are intelligent, and a lot of them didn't know who you or even Shaq were. Sure. He's been around for ages. Sure. So my question to you would be, obviously it would take a catastrophe to get to the point of change. What could you guys do more mainstream, i.e. Discovery Channel, to get this documentary out there, not amongst small groups like this, but mainstream? I've spoken to so many people and they do not know what the zeitgeist movement is.
Well, I consider, if you really think about it, it's definitely an infancy stage. If you compare our numbers and our reach with, by the way, no heavy monetary contributions, it's all volunteer and independent people doing this around the court, which is very powerful, by the way. But if you compare ourselves to other activist organizations, or what you want to call them, it took them much longer to achieve the audience and the group that we have. So I think instead of an angle of progress for what is really only about 2 years ultimately, I think it's quite effective, quite profound. I'm trying to get the documentary on the documentary film channel. I've had communication with various organizations to do whatever I can. And of course, anyone can show the film. I give the film essentially out. Any television station can basically show it, as long as they don't exploit it. And I don't require any type of money for it, which is quite an incentive for them, because there is an audience, and all they see is dollar signs and everything else. But
I guess there'll be a few company owners that have investments in certain places that really want this document on, I would guess.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I guess there'd be a lot of directors, company owners that are capitalists.
Well, that's all they want. This is the system they live in. That's what they see. They see dollar signs. So if they see an audience, that's just a sad reality of it, why they would rationalize it. Unless you occasionally get somebody that's in the mainstream that really believes in it, they can slide it in, which does occasionally happen in certain contexts. But I think the progress is there, and I'm doing the best I can. The movie was made in more of a, quote, high-budget kind of way, with a much bigger spread to try to appeal to a diverse group as possible. So I'm doing the best that I can. It's really just up to everybody to continue.
So what could we do as individuals? I mean, I work as a recruitment consultant, which effectively is against all the things I'm watching here. but I've started to go into work feeling like I don't really want to do this because it's all about money and profit. What does the average person who's just trying to get by?
This is the complex reality. You have to walk a dual line if you believe in this type of direction, because you can't just throw everything down and assume it's going to happen tomorrow. You can't just disregard money and the future. It's paradoxical in a state of mind. So what I kind of tell people is you kind of have to wear the movement on your shoulder. You have to make it a part of your general life. You have to know that you have to submit to the system. If you have the option, if you're in college, try to do something that has some type of social benefit. Don't do what I was forced to do, in advertising for a while. Don't try to stay away from all of the parasitic industries and things that really do nothing at all. And there's a number of them. Try to do something in the advanced, in programming, things that relate to design computers. Computers obviously are not going to stop in their progression in effect. What we talk about here is very much based on the computational ability to manage the Earth resources correctly. So these are very important fields. So I would definitely recommend that as a general station. But to finish that point, just anyway, if you're frustrated, don't try to balance your life, as I try to do my best, between your basic survival and trying to promote something that you feel is important for your future and your family's future, your kids, obviously their future. and realize that it's just a very noble thing to promote in itself.
Maybe I'll come work for you as a salesman or something like that.
Sorry?
I could come work for you as a salesperson.
There you go. If I had any money to pay you.
Hi Peter, this question relates to media conditioning. I just want to know how mindful you are of the conditioning effects that your movies have on people who see them, and how responsible you feel in relation to the honesty about how things are likely to change going forward in terms of social collapse and that kind of thing, and whether it's possible to project a better way to transition, a better way that we can go forwards that could be more acceptable and more humane overall.
Well, I'm not advocating a breakdown. I don't want to see people suffer. I'm beside everything. I'm watching what's happening and reporting what I observe and the research that I've done. So when I explain the collapse in the film, as despairing as it may be, it's simply an observation. And the film itself, I don't talk about the actual transition. The ending is a big gesture. It's really this catharsis against this kind of monetary reality and all the things that go with it. But as far as positivity and transition, the sad thing is biosocial pressure is what really influence people in their change. It takes stressors to get people to be motivated one way or another. They can be intellectual and they can rationalize and make decisions, but generally speaking, people tend to maneuver themselves based on what the environment is dictating. So I think it's a natural consequence. First of all, if the system worked, let's put this out there, if the free market, the free-for-all market, as I call it, if it actually worked, then why would I be here? If everything was in balance, then there'd be no reason to do anything. The resource-based economy is an answer to the failure of an evolutionarily flawed system. So I see the despairing attributes of the conflict, the instability as a natural evolution out of the system, unfortunately, which will serve as a motivator intrinsically and inherently for the population to realize that they have to do something new, that it's time to start looking for new solutions and essentially for a new social system where these things simply don't happen.
Yeah, I agree with the observations. I just wonder if it's possible for us to design a better way for the transition.
Well, I'd love to see it. Sure, I'd love to see other people take a shot at it. I'm doing the best that I can in the way that I think is balanced and just honest. And of course, it's a movie. Speaking of media quote conditioning, so I do have to generate aesthetic for it through music and everything else to give a sense of emotional impression. But if you break this down the data and read the script, it is what it is. But I encourage anyone out there, all of us, anyone can be a filmmaker now, anyone can do anything in media, to investigate other means, and I'd certainly love to see it. So if you come up with it, please send it to me. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, we're all working on it, I'm sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Go to the right again. This gentleman here in the middle, please. No, and the red sweater there, please.
In your resource-based economy, there will still be jobs of some sort, whether it's even scientists, technicians, engineers, computer designers, whatever.
Right.
Now, I've got a job, but my next door neighbour hasn't. Isn't that creating inequality? And why should I do the job anyway?
Say the last part again?
And why should I do my job anyway? My next door neighbour, he's doing pottery all day, he's quite happy.
Does he have financial support?
Well, you're saying everybody's got abundance.
Well, no. If I understand you correctly, the labor that's required in a resource-based economy is substantially minimal than what you see today. And the big difference between what you're doing in a resource-based economy versus what you're doing today, in most cases at least, is that it has a direct social tie. It supports you just as it supports everyone else. So it's a different train of thought. If you develop a value system, all of us have things that we like to do, things that we enjoy doing. And I think many of those things have to do with some type of labor, if you consider it as such. Investigate things. I love research. I read lots of books. I like to invent things whenever I have time to do so. I am certainly happy. I would personally be perfectly happy to run part of the city system just for my own satisfaction to know that it's going to keep the system working, it's going to be efficient, and it's the appreciation of everyone else. You could exchange the labor where your commitment in a resource-based economy, say in a city structure, would be nominal, so nominal to the effect of just a few hours a week in this rotation that everyone in the society works with. It's about people learning that you don't have to have monetary reward to sustain yourself. I mean, we're not that lazy, you know. It's like, I really believe the conditioning of the modern culture is such that people have a knee-jerk reaction out of not want to do any type of labor. They want to get monetary reward for everything on one side, simply because the labor is usually irrelevant. I mean, there's a great majority of the occupations out there serve only a monetary employment function. They don't contribute to anything. People, the real satisfaction of people, the real most satisfaction-oriented jobs, if that makes sense, tend to be ones that help people. I know lawyers that have been working for tobacco companies their whole life and criminal enterprises, and they retired and they went straight into pro bono work just to cleanse their soul. You know, there is a natural, I believe in this society, because the pressure for income is removed, because the necessities of life, the needs of society is managed and maintained as the design of society, and access to abundance. People will volunteer left and right to want to contribute and to help and improve, because the improvement that they make to the society is an improvement that comes back to them. Self-interest becomes social interest in this type of arrangement. And I think, even if you had 40% of the society utterly lazy, you still will need a fraction of the other percentage to pick up the slack. I guarantee you they'd be happy to do so.
So you don't think people with jobs and people without jobs would in itself create some sort of inequality?
I don't believe, first of all, that no one would, quote, just not do anything. And I think that people would want to help. I think people have their artistic, personal interests, but I do deeply believe that in America, one of the most capitalist and self-indulgent and narrow societies on the planet has been utterly groomed into this horrible state of mind of just blind, naked self-interest. We have in America, volunteerism that I believe it's in the companion guide. You remember this, Tom? Remember the statistics on volunteers in America? That it was colossal. I couldn't believe when I read it. 45%. It was amazing to see how many people, most people, by the way, that volunteer are actually in the lower income brackets, which I found fascinating too. Those that are most rewarded in the system are much, much less likely to contribute. It's those that actually see the basis of humanity, that live in the common world. They're the ones that want to help. So it's another tidbit for you to consider. So people will do so. They've proven it. We have a huge volunteer, nonprofit volunteer sector, if you will. In fact, there's a book I recommend that talks about that explicitly called The End of Work by Jeremy Rifkin. I recommend that to you because it's a really brilliant point that he makes. And he's not actually an application of what we talk about. I try to get in touch with him, it doesn't matter. But he at least points this out specifically, that in the future, because of the automation of labor, because of the lack of ability for people, majority of people to be employed, other sectors will come into fruition, and they'll be very, very different. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that particular angle, but his understanding of the nonprofit sector as a base support, where in a society where everyone is trained to be as capitalistic and ruthless as possible, is an amazing, to me, testament of some deep down human attribute that really does want to help each other and are willing to do so. So I checked that book out if you want more information on that point.
Okay, this man here in the front has been waiting a while. I'll come back. Sorry, man.
Paul, I came all the way from Chicago to talk to you. Long flight. Basically, forgive me if I kind of go on for just a moment. Just grant me a little time, and I put it in here. I've been working kind of behind the scenes on how to do that transition that this gentleman, the former children in the back, spoke about, and I think that it will be a fantastic way. But I wanted to kind of preface that by asking you some questions. So people want to do more, and many simply don't have the time, resources, or influence to get out there and say, hi, this is what we would like to do. How about you jump on board? Because they have jobs, because they have debt, because they're going to continue to have bills and things that are going to keep them mentally drained outside of what media is doing already. So how would you suggest the tired people do? What would you suggest for these tired people to do, or how to get them into a transitory state outside of simply spamming links to their friends to try to get them to check out this information?
Well, again, that's I think a per case basis type of question. You know, for the average wage slave that's racked in debt, can't think about anything, forget any type of social activism. They're not concerned about the Middle East wars. You know, everything's locked in. This is actually, in my mind, I think, intrinsically built in the system as an aside. The distraction of this oppressive deprivation that permeates, especially now, serves the establishment in a strange way because it keeps people so narrowly encompassed, and that's essentially the point. So they don't have the means or the energy to think about these things because they can barely take care of themselves. It's a sad state of social control. I think is somewhat realistic in the minds of those that are around that want to maintain their power establishment. But I don't want to pull out. It's not a conspiratorial notion. It's a natural element, gravitation of the system for people to maintain their positions. But to answer your question, I think you have to take it on a per-case basis and speak with the position, each individual, get their background, and get them to relate the fact that what they're doing, most likely, well, first of all, their entire position, of course, is oppressive because of the system. So there's point one, and then you hone up to their actual level of their actual personal relationship level of what their occupation is. Do they have a family? You see what I mean? You can't just I can't blanketly tell you where. In fact, goes for almost any kind of communication. Some universal to approach anyone. But if they're stuck in a position of debt, you're going to have a hard time one way or another. If they're narrowly defined, they can barely support themselves. But just remind them that the oppressive system is what's keeping them down, and if they want out of it, they have to make some type of stride.
I mean, that's definitely a good point. It kind of possibly leads into the next question I had about, in the film, a dollar amount was referred to in terms of what it costs to go to war and how much, if that money were to be put towards building infrastructure, how it could have been done on a global basis. Is there a particular dollar amount that it would cost or it would take to initiate either the survey or building this test city?
Yeah, that's a good question. I asked Jacques about the test city, and I can't remember the carrying capacity of that city, but at that stage he said it was rather small, and he quoted about $1 billion, which I think might have been rather low, but it's really hard to financially foreshadow. The survey is something that really has almost been done in a lot of ways already by private corporations. It's simply getting that data. But we can't even get straight data out of the oil companies. I mean, it's really hard when you have proprietary institutions that want to protect their self-interest. And since scarcity is one of the biggest drivers of demand, this is profitable demand, you enter into a world that you really can't get honest information. So it's really just stopping it, making them get the information that they have at one level, and then it's using advanced technologies to scour the earth and survey, which there are many forms of radiation technology that can be used to see lots of attributes. There's a lot of technical things you can do, which would be extremely expensive. In my view, it would be done without expense.
Right.
I really, because you really can't build this thing on the basis of money. You have to go straight to the resources and resource management to do it efficiently. You have to do it right, not with the the cost efficiency, which would inevitably hinder you. So I really can't answer that question. It's hard to do.
It was only in the sense to reference to
I've got doing one we can. That's two questions. Yeah.
Okay.
Give somebody else a chance. Anybody on the right?
I'll talk to you about it.
Yeah. Anybody on the right? Guy in the middle here? Yeah, over there, please, Nathan. Yeah. Brown t-shirt.
Hello. One of the problems I've found in society today is a lot of people have such short attention spans. So when I send them the link to this film and they see 2 hours and 40 minutes, they immediately close it, and I can't handle that, and I can't watch that. Anything that's more than 3 minutes long, people just don't have the time. They're too busy playing their games, watching their main entertainment, X Factor, and all this nonsense. And every time you send, I have a lot of friends online that I talk to, I send them links, I show them these things, and they just simply cannot be bothered. What do we do about people like that? How do we get these people to see and to realise and to understand these are the kind of things that they need to be interested in and need to talk about and think about?
I think in communication, more severe in your reasoning for watching the film. You know, one of the kind of second thoughts that, well, inadvertent realities of the way the films are constructed is they're in sections. So I recommend maybe studying sections. Ooh, watch the section on the monetary system. It's, you know, part 2. And, you know, or if you know people that are interested in sociology and behavior, ooh, we got to see the section on part 1. I don't know, try to do something like that. I hear you. I made the film 2 hours. I could have made it much longer, but right? I almost broke it into films, right? You know, I wanted to be as concise as possible, meaning not miss anything. I get so tired of people complaining about addendum and, you know, all the things, because it just brings up everything that doesn't explain it. Again, it's a 2-hour film. It wasn't, the intent wasn't to be fully based there, but moving forward certainly was. So I did that distinctly because I knew that I believe that, you know, most people really do watch it. I mean, 4 million views on YouTube, and some people have said they've seen it like 20 times. I'm like, God, you really accepted the thing?
I've seen it about 8.
Well, see, there you go. See, so it's not universal. So if you encounter people that simply don't want to take the time, I guess just move on and go to the next, you know, the next subject.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Go to the left again.
Very short question. Are you planning to do the next movie about how to get there?
Good question.
You have a lot of ideas, I'm sure.
The thing about how to get there, it's not really conducive into a movie format. Because as I was mentioning, and that's why I ended it the way I did. It's a very overarching aesthetic gesture, emotional gesture, cathartic gesture. The transition is so unpredictable. There's so many things that could happen that would completely change the path, not necessarily the direction of where we want to go, but who knows what could happen as the instability that's obviously showing itself now continues to go. So I'm going to make more presentations in the movement and more documents in the movement. I talked about it at length in different contexts. But I do plan to make a transition, narrated, simple, but not a movie. I won't have any music to describe other angles for that.
Because the ability to dream is the strongest and the main ability of human being.
Sure. Yes. Thank you.
It's a guy in the middle there with a red top on. He's been waiting for a while. You can get to him later. Thanks. It's all right.
Good afternoon. I just want to say thanks for a great film. My question is just purely curious, following on from that gentleman's comment over there about trying to shorten the information so that people can... I'm wondering, I'm sure you've been asked, or wondering if you thought it was possible to reduce the ideas in all 3 films into maybe 17 or 24 minutes. I'm talking about possibly doing a... I mean, have you ever considered doing a TED Talk? Something like that?
All 3 films, the first film has its own life, because it was before my interest emerged in the sustainable resource-based economy, which emerged at the end of Addendum. So there's kind of a divide between the 3 films right in the center as far as their context. Obviously they're interrelated in the corruption level and all of that stuff, and what the system reinforces and all of that. I have offers for TEDx I'm going to be doing. There's different TED arrangements. Obviously, I will do my best in the 20-minute time frame when I have those opportunities. And, like tomorrow, I'm reducing what usually is like a 3-hour type of lecture to 45 minutes, just because brutal enough. So, I'm doing my best. Yeah.
Mr. Dowling.
Hey, well, nice to see you again.
See you.
A little curious, perhaps off the general theme here, but just on a personal basis, I've heard you describe yourself as the de facto leader of the Zeitgeist movement, and having...
In fact, the founder of the Zeitgeist.
Beg your pardon. Nonetheless, the question is still valid. Having been to a number of these meetings over the last couple of years, I was just wondering, does the notion of pressure upon you, has that grown, increased as the movement has grown in stature? Do you feel any sort of weight of responsibility for... There's a lot of what do you expect us to do? These sort of questions come up time and time again. I just wonder how that affects you personally.
Well, yeah, I have been basic understanding, which I talk about a lot, is that I'm only one individual. While people might look to me, obviously people are asking me questions, which I appreciate, and I have done a great deal of research, and that's pretty much all I'm doing now, so I like to provide as much information as I can, and hopefully that'll be digested and built upon. Simultaneously, I've been able to condition myself to not feel like I am now responsible for anything. I'm just like anyone else. And I say that constantly to people. As a founder, I'm an initiator. I definitely don't like the term leader, as you know from my general rhetoric, because it implies that I have all the answers. It implies, or Jacques as a leader or anything. That we don't need leaders anymore. We need people to actually be educated. Leaders is a corrupt concept. I mean, the leadership and peasant relationship, I can't think of another word for it. Leadership and public relationship is really power strangulation because the public can't be educated for leaders to be maintained. And that's why we have basically a dumbed-down type of arrangement throughout the entire world and a restriction of information. Throughout the dawn of time since the divinity of kings, it's been all about restricting information to the masses so the leadership can maintain power. And that's what we have to get over. So I emphatically want people to become their own leader, as I say, in the words like Krishnamurti, who knew very well about that concept, it's like a tendon. But I do feel pressure, obviously, standing here, I have tremendous obligation, and I am compelled to do as much as I can, and I do get dissatisfied if I don't feel I communicate things properly and things like that, and I let them down. And of course, everyone scrutinizes everything I say now. I can't make any statement without somebody, anything that's slightly ambiguous, you'll see some blog taken out of context, you're trying to do some context for it, suddenly I'm advocating Nazism or something. So I have to be very careful now with pretty much everything I say. So it does become stressful, I definitely admit that, but I also understand it, and I'm pretty relaxed. I take it in stride, but I take it very seriously, but I'm not, my blood pressure isn't that much more elevated, so I'm okay. Thank you.
That's rubbish. I haven't had an original thought in my head since I saw these zeitgeist movies. I can't get out of bed without him telling me to do something.
That's my water. Actually, it is.
That guy in the back here, I'll come back to you guys. Up the back, Jason, with the cap on, so it's not the one.
Hi, Joseph. First of all, thank you for giving us this great release. And before I ask my question, feel free to add anything you want me to addendum, but don't remove anything. It's a great, great movie. My question is, you raise the awareness against about growing population, but you stop short of advocating any kind of population control / management / stabilization or whatever you want to call it. And I feel this is, do you think that we can have a resource-based economy whilst carrying on multiplying like that and like cancer taking over the planet? Or is it that you don't want to offend any kind of pressure groups by talking about, because I think that is the only point, one little thing that I'd like to have seen more developed in your films. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I want to make sure I understood the question correctly. You were saying that the subject of population, you were just curious how that fits into the equation ultimately?
No, but in a resource-based economy, they will solve a lot of problems. Can we carry on? Can we afford the luxury of multiplying ourselves?
Okay.
We are the cancer of it. So you talk about that, but you don't say anything about a solution. You don't say, well, we should control through alleviation of poverty, not for eugenics, of course, but any kind of solution. We don't talk about this at all.
Okay, we don't know what the carrying capacity of the Earth is. People will say today that, it's because of overpopulation. You have, one child dying every 5 seconds, which is complete nonsense. Even these global institutions like the World Health Organization will admit that there's easily enough food to feed everybody. There's easily enough technology to create desalination plants to deal with the water shortages and scarcity in the third world. So I'm of the contention when I look at what we're doing and how inefficient it is and what we could do if we maximize efficiency, I think the current population can be multiplied many times over, frankly. But that doesn't change the problem of a public that doesn't think about its relationship to the planet, which hasn't been the case. Through religious indoctrination, be fruitful and multiply, we've had this rhetoric throughout time. dominant value systems of creating a family and such with no real regard for the environment that they're bringing them into, understanding that each child needs the necessities of life, so they have the resources of the planet. So what needs to happen, first of all, totalitarianism doesn't work. Imposing rules on people simply doesn't work in the long run. So I would never advocate, because it doesn't work, any type of oppressive policy for some kind of population control or one-child policy. I'm against all of that. What I would say, though, is that if the public doesn't begin to understand its relationship, there will obviously be natural problems which hopefully will resolve themselves by the consequence of what actually occurs. So I've jumped around a little bit. Let me just say that in a resource-based economy, the educational system was designed from the very early ages. Instead of teaching people about Goldilocks and all of the play school, kindergarten, preschool stuff, all these the kind of mind-numbing things they do to children, which children learn extremely fast. And of course, the young impressions are the most permanent for most of the minds of most people. Excuse me. You would teach them about their relationship to the planet. You would teach them how to grow food. That's the first thing you do with kids that are old enough to understand. You teach them what actually creates their life. You teach them about social relations. You teach them about how to live in a society and what it means and what the relationship is to the planet. So when they grow up, they might say to themselves, well, I think I might have a child now. Is the Earth prepared? Is my region prepared? Am I able to support this child? What is the current state of the planet? Is there reason to suspect that maybe the carrying capacity of the Earth can't handle any more people in the distant future? That's the type of rationale that will occur. And that's all you can hope for. If it comes down to it that population just irrationally starts to continue to multiply itself, well, that's its own decision for demise. There's nothing anyone can do about it. You know what I mean?
The depletion of the fish stocks and deforestation, that gives you an idea of not just consumerism, but growing populations' impact on resources. Maybe we should address this, or then say what you just said in the film, so that skeptics can at least understand the point of view of the zeitgeist movement on that matter.
Well, I think I've more or less explained the fundamental point of view, and the resource consumption of human beings has to be related to the carrying capacity of the Earth, and we finally figure out what that is. And people need to adapt accordingly, just like you adapt to any other form of natural law. It's not out of the question. I really believe that the multiplication issue, this constant reproduction and expansion, is a result of early religious indoctrination. It's related to the Catholic Church and the dominance of Europe. Uniquely the people that procreate the most tend to be the most least educated, tend also to be the most poverty-stricken, which is so bizarre when you think about it. It goes to show that there's something going on in their sense of self that is it's distorted. It's not processing correctly what the relationship with the environment is. If I was poor living, in a very destitute scenario, why would I have 5 kids? But yet this happens all the time. So it's an educational imperative, is my point. And that's all you can really hope for, again, is that people will understand. Ants, for example. I saw a beautiful documentary on ants, and ants are incredible. They will go in their huge formations, and they will consume a tree, but they leave just enough. They leave just enough to make sure they never damage it. There's studies that have done this. And they move around, and they have some type of consciousness that they never deplete anything. They never deplete anything. They know what they're doing on some base level. I think somewhere in our human physiology is that intuitive recognition that we live on a planet that has to be respected on all levels. But it's been completely robbed out of us. We've been completely decoupled because in the current economic model, the current global economic model, you have to keep reproducing. If you don't keep reproducing, no more money will be created. The supply, the consumption patterns will drop. I mean that very literally. If people stop procreating right now, the economy would fail. That's how sick this society is. And that's why it's going to be so self-destructive in the long run for multiple angles, because it's not basically sustainable. So the more the population grows, it's going to hit a peak. And the peak is not going to be real. It's going to be because the system can't supply anything else. It's not going to work anymore. And the saddest thing that I don't want to see, hopefully I don't want to see ever, and sadly I think it might happen anyway, but it probably won't happen in my lifetime, is a depopulation because of a lack of resources. It's not going to be the New World Order. Just have to throw that out there. I'm so sick of the New World Order shit, but that's aside. It's going to be that because that the system can't support the people naturally based on the way it's organized. That's the fear. And that's the worst aspect of this entire thing. It's bad enough that we have the death and starvation on a daily basis. We already have mass starvation with 1 billion people. Yet everyone sort of looks a blind eye to it. Oh, that's just the way it is. Wait till it's 2 billion, 3 billion, 4 billion. That's going to be really grotesque. Really grotesque. And hopefully, if anything that will change people's minds about what's happening, something like that will, as sad as that is. Again, I don't want any of that to happen, but that's the case, that's the trend that's emerging right now with this total systemic collapse. The population bubble will pop too if this isn't corrected soon enough.
This guy's been waiting for a very long time.
There's actually a couple of questions. You can answer in one floor. It is, I'm foreigner, so I'm not English, and because I've been living here for 5 or 6 years, that's the only reason why I was able to understand the movie, and I was able to, come here now because I was sure that this is the right thing to do. But then I know that in order to reach people from where I'm from, people from other countries, this kind of video would have to be kind of redone, but at the same time some things would stay and some things would be changed. I mean, the talks of scientists, if you use the scientists from the country, these people will get to the society that they live in. Because for me, it was American scientist or English scientist, and it was an American movie. If you changed only the same message, but done with local scientists or local people. Who are clever enough to say that and to back it up because they are professors. And I'm sure you can find these kind of people. So the question is, if it's possible, that's the first thing, if you would allow it to happen. The other thing is how much money and how much time would it take to redo, to change the movie a little bit. Not change, it's the same movie, but it would be translated not with subtitles, because when you see it with subtitles, you don't get...
So the voices, you say?
Voices. Change the voice, change the narrator.
Yeah, we're doing that in Italian right now. The Italian chapter's doing that. And I hope I'm answering your question correctly. It's the same movie, but we're putting in the narration in the native language. Right? That's what you're asking.
How about the scientists and people who are in professionals who are backing it up? What is claimed? Like in the first section.
Yes, they would be translated too. I hope I understand you.
To have these professionals.
Oh, you mean you want a native professional? Yeah, that's a very difficult thing to assess. I have to know who they are. It would change the movie explicitly because everyone has their own method of communication.
No, that's true, but then it would be said that it has to be the same message, but in a different language. The same message, but...
Well, I'm not sure where I would begin with that to recreate the movie with native individuals per...
Because you are a producer, so you've done this movie, so you know whether you can change you can put in the videos from interviews in the country with the scientists. You know what I mean?
Right. I'll give that some thought. That's a very interesting thing to suggest.
And then, if you give that a thought, I'll mind, because I'm building a website and I wouldn't mind putting some money towards it.
Okay.
So, yeah,
we move on.
Okay. Send me an email, let me know what you're doing. Peter at the Zyclo's.com.
So.
Good afternoon, Peter. First of all, thank you so much for your time. I have to apologize for London. We have millions of people here, but we couldn't pull out. This is a bit tricky, my question. I know it's sort of thing, I understand your views on secret societies and conspiracy theories and the Illuminati and New World Order and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to go a little bit above it and think, sort of, try to place the monarchy, the British monarchy. Unfortunately, I've noticed in my own, if I can say, research, that most people in London or in Britain believe the British monarchy to be only symbolic. I completely go against that. So I was hoping you could enlighten me on where would the British monarchy fit and the Freemasons in the whole picture. How are we going to get them involved?
Okay, so you're asking if I believe that where the British monarchy fits within the...
Yes, how are we going to get the Queen to go, come on,
Send her a DVD.
I'm sure I answered that question. I'm not really up to speed with such issues, to be perfectly honest with you. I really know nothing about the British monarchy in any general...
Some guys are doing the notes and they're quite rich.
Sure.
Yes. That's kind of a question, because I don't see it backing down, especially when we have an army, that British army sworn allegiance to her.
Well, the allegiance of any army can be shifted. We've seen that historically, regardless of the context. That happened in Egypt. That even happened in Venezuela, oddly, in the false coup that occurred about a decade ago. But I don't know how to answer your question. Thank you.
We'll be in the signature.
Okay, if you want to clarify that, maybe you can catch me outside.
This man here, please, he's been waiting.
Let's try to keep the questions as questions. I know everyone likes to communicate. It's just people want. I know it's a short period of time.
Hi Peter, I'm a PhD student at Plymouth, Southwest England, currently researching epigenetic robotics. My background's in computer science and evolutionary and adaptive systems. Quick question, are you aware of the existence of any website or internet accessible system that allows individuals around the world to log the presence of resources and their location and current state? So I'm talking about a bottom-up constructed database that's globally accessible and open to everyone.
We've been trying to create that for a while. We called it From Earth to Venus.
From Earth to Venus.
It was a gesture that I still have programmers, playing around with, which is basically an online Wikipedia type of arrangement where you can fact check it, obviously, and it's about documenting and essentially making different layers. There were some Google API programs that were able to do this, where first of all, you need to know where everything is. Then you need to know, logic. You construct a logic of certain infrastructure depending on what the goal is, in whatever region, whether it's irrigation. But you look at where the locations of the best geothermal power plants are, where the best wind farms are. You do exactly what you just described. So we have that program that we've been trying to get going.
I'm talking more about a kind of real-time global map of resources that everyone, resources including people, books, cars. Just if everyone could. I'd quite like to start sharing resources with people now, and what I'm imagining is a community of people all around the world who want to share their resources, their possessions, so they upload where they are, what they have to this system, and then you've got what I see as the beginning of a resource-based economy, and we could do this now, right?
That is interesting now.
Do you see what I mean? That is a parallel structure.
Yeah, no, I include that. I mean, the Facebook kind of arrangement that does this an intuitive, a crude form of way to describe it as far as general interaction, that's what we're doing. So I think that the program is probably already in existence in a loose form for what you're describing. But as in your field, you should work to create.
Your next job.
I shall look into it.
So I just got the corner.
Hi Peter, my name is Enko. Quick question. Jacques was mentioning in the video that you can change the surface of the Earth in about 10 years. Is that the period you think, looking forward, we say that we have the amount of people needed in the movement? Is that the amount of time we would need to get to the ideal city? And could you expand a bit on, how long will the transition take? And also on the social and economic mechanisms
that we will expect to have during the transition?
Well, the 10-year thing is my understanding in my own talks, because that was actually a dated video, was simply about what it would take when everyone's in agreement. And that's beyond that, I think it would take a lot longer. The transition really is a cultural transition. It's the transition of getting people to understand it and realize that it's in their best interest and it's better for everyone and it will resolve tremendous numbers of problems. I really couldn't tell you the time for the transition. It's impossible. It's a common question, and I completely understand it. It's really, the more things unfold, the more we'll know. Right now, it's a big blob of instability and dormant kind of things. That you can see a lot of things that are on the horizon that sprout up and very, very quickly and very dramatically. We don't know. Until something rather colossal happens, I can't give any frame of reference. I really don't know. All I know is that nothing's going to change until people begin to push the direction of those critical mass that we can create. So that's just what I keep explaining to people.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I wish I could give more information. I'm not a prophet.
On the right again, and up at the back there. Nathan? Sorry, you're running around on that. Yeah, up at the back there, there's a guy with his hand up. First guy you're going to come to, on the right.
Hi, you describe that we're defined by environment in the film. To me, that's just as dangerous as saying we're defined by genetics.
It doesn't say we're defined by our environment. It says there's an interaction of environment and genetics, and the environment is triggering genetic responses. The environment. What is evolution? Evolution is the process of establishing traits. So actually, to be more specific, genes are changing along with the physiology of the organism. The organism survives is contingent on what? The environment. The environment dictates everything at the end of the day. Our genes are products, in fact, of the environment through long periods of evolution. That's essentially the point that's being made. It's not a denial of genetics.
But you forget about the environment of our own intuition. It doesn't go into it in the video. It's, we have our own intuition. And we might have a bad environment, but we can change things like everyone else here. We've come here because of our intuition. That's what could be a transition stage to develop the intuition and our own being.
Okay, I don't know what intuition is. It's one of those terms that is undefined in my mind. I can't find a physical reference for the term intuition. I've heard a lot, but I think it's really a romantic notion. It's about, there's so many things happening in our brains. There are so many reactions, muscular, that happen. Just like someone can throw a ball at me and I won't think about it and I'll grab something. I'll stick my arm out and catch it. Our brains are doing things constantly that we have no concept of and are perceiving things constantly. So certain collage of environmental factors can trigger something and we have a reaction that's intelligent. We think to ourselves, ooh, I knew that happened, but we don't know why. We think, oh, it might be our intuition, as though there's some type of sub-level. But it's really just the subconscious consuming things, comprehending things that our rational mind is unable to do and explain. That's the way I would define intuition personally.
I feel like it's more of a need to want to be in balance, want to be happy. Because the world's not in balance. That's why we're all here. We don't feel comfortable with it, So there's an element in us that wants to change. That defines our character as well as the environment. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, should not agree with that. I don't know. I just wouldn't say that's intuition. So I would say that's the environment's effect on you. You know something's wrong. People say to me, like, I just know something's wrong, and they don't know why. And that's why I go back to the example I just made, that there's so many interactions occurring around us that we can't possibly perceive. And responses that we do that we don't even think about, we play tricks on ourselves. The mind is extremely fallible in many, many, many ways when it comes to the influences that are coming in and out of it, and the biases of the individual. So I don't want to go along with the tangent on that, but I believe that when people say to me, I just feel that something's wrong, it's not that it's a feeling, per se. It's that it's a perception that they don't understand why. It's a feeling that's there, it's generated as a feeling, but it's an intellectual perception, something's happened, but it's happened in a way that they don't mentally comprehend it. That happens all day long with all of us. A lot of books I've read on how mind plays tricks on you, the way we comprehend things. It's a fascinating subject. So, but I agree. Something's definitely wrong, and I think many people are beginning to realize that, whether they're conscious of it or not.
This guy here has had his hand up for a long time. This guy. Please do on this guy. Thanks. Yeah, the guy on the top. Thanks.
Okay, just two quick comments on the cost of a city. I think Portugal is aiming to do a
TV laxity with a central nervous system by 2015, and the estimated cost is $15 billion. And another one of the population argument, check capminder.org with statistical analysis from Hans Rosling. Someone has good data on that, and how it gradually stabilizes to about 9 million by 2050. 9 billion, sorry. I'm confusing million with billions. Okay, my question now. It's regarding transition. I know the focus of the movement is getting the information out there and essentially making the value shift in the culture, but I think when the shit hits the fan, to be honest, and people may need something more tangible. So my question is, do you think that we could, each chapter as a parallel action, get all the sustainability organizations together, like Free Economy, CollapseNet, or carpooling, and make a global or chapter level network of, trying to get the fundamentals, so we have some stable network when the collapse, big collapse occurs. So,
bringing together other organizations as more support, you mean?
Yeah, in parallel with getting the information out there.
No, absolutely. I mean, as long as the other organizations really understand the direction they're willing to support it. If there's dichotomy, people ask me all the time, well, why doesn't Greenpeace work with you, or why doesn't any other of the mainstream, so to speak, mainstream activist communities? Because they don't understand the direction. They're not identified with it. I've had numerous communications, lots of establishment institutions. And what can I do with an organization? A lot of activist organizations see the traffic. They just want to put one of their banner ads up. They're not really in a partnership. They just want to expose themselves. So as long as they're in line, but the Zeitgeist movement is this network in and of itself. And when I say to people in other organizations, I say, well, continue your work with that organization. Why don't you come in and help support this as well, as a secondary? And I think that's the best way to think about it. Rather than getting confused, overlap with different intents, which I think can be very detrimental, I'd rather keep it homogeneous. And that's what I say to everyone. So they say, well, why don't you partner with this, this, this? And I say, why don't you maintain that and come to us as well? That's a better way to look at it, as opposed to confusing people. And we end up with 20 partner organizations, and they all have their own little angles of what they're doing. If any organization out there that's explicitly interested in the resource-based economy that isn't of an ego disposition, because we've had this happen, where these sort of usurpers come in, and they come in a very, very, very non-professional, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very arrogant disposition, where they want to usurp. They think they'll just do it better. They're not even trying to work with us. They want to just override it because they know better. I have obvious disrespect for that. What can you do with that when you have an internal group at odds? So I disregard that as well. If they're not willing to simply accept what we set up, that's already global now, it's already in motion, I have no real comment on that. I say if you really support it, you'll do your work with us and with whatever organization you're doing simultaneously. That's the way to look at it.
Okay, I was just referring to transition mostly, and not like the ultimate goal, which is the resource-based one. Okay, thank you.
This is the transition we're in right now. So we're in the transition, so everything that we're doing now is equally as important as it will be 10 years down the road.
There's a guy there, standing there, sitting next to my daughter, who I'm trying hard to indoctrinate.
Hi, Peter. I'm representing the Miami, Florida chapter, and we really don't have any problems getting information out, finding people who agree. Our problems come after that. What do we do after that? Most people, their exposure to the scientific method was high school chemistry. How can we get them to begin to think in that technician's mindset and then apply that to their daily lives and to how they view society? Like, what project can we take on as a chapter to begin educating our community?
That's a great question. I think there's some wonderful texts on the Venus Project reading list that if you break them into chapters, obviously Jock's book, and then Tyranny of Words is a great thought exercise book. I consider it quite scientific in its abstraction. There's also there's a lot of big interest now in science and sanity, I've found, the book Science and Sanity. A lot of books I can't really think of right now, but they force the inferential state of mind, if you will. It gets people to look at causal reality. Just like I outlined, in part 3, where it's describing from the ground up why the reason this society is what it is. So I guess you just simply have to kind of, if someone's new, try to get them into that mindset for the reasoning, understand the reasoning, and that's essentially what the scientific method of thought is, as long as the data set, of course, is correct. So you have to be creative with it and also think about who you're dealing with. If someone's interest is already in a field of science, then push them towards something that's related to the field that they're in, so they have identification with it. If someone is in an artistic context, then you would go in a very different way. You wouldn't give them, I can't think of an example, but you wouldn't get them something so technically specific that it would be too much of it, So I recommend taking the individual into account and trying to get active information going. What everyone should be doing at all times is learning. I think you'll forget that. Even I don't know everything. I haven't read everything in the reading list, even though I certainly want to. I haven't read everything that I've had this gigantic list that's subsourced, but it's all there and I will eventually do it. The process of education is almost the most critical part in getting people to understand just it as much as possible about what's relevant, as much as possible in a relevant context, specifically to the resource-based economy. So, excuse me by the way, great jet lag. So. That's a big question, and I would have to say that using the book sources as a starting point and pushing those books on those that have nothing to do, as you stated, or want something to do, and get your feedback on there and have groups that talk and discuss those ideas, and also invent and create. That's another thing I definitely recommend, especially for those who are technically minded, to get them to think about how they would redesign North America. What parameters would they use, and why? What would be the self-evident generation? Is it just a whim of theirs? Are they actually researching it? You see what I mean? There's all sorts of thought exercises that go on, which is why, as I mentioned, Mirth to Venus is so important, and I'm really looking forward to getting that going. It's been a difficult programming complication as of now. To get people together and say, oh, wow, this is great. Think about creating the fun that would be to get people that are fluent in, structural design, and start from the macrocosm and then hone in region by region about how you would design the most efficient society. So I recommend all of that. Beyond that, it's all a matter of awareness and spreading awareness for each one. So the scientific method, train of thought, isn't something that you can just give somebody. Because inferential assessment has to be as objective as possible. Human beings intrinsically, especially in this culture, are not objective. So they have to overcome their victimization of culture, which we talk about in length as well. So I hope that kind of helps.
And with there's a guy right in the corner there. Waiting for what? Thanks.
Hello everyone. My name is Peter. My name is Mihai.
Hi.
I'm from Romania. I live in the UK. ZDay from Romania says hello, even if I don't reactivate with them. I live here. Now, my question is related a bit to a documentary I saw. I think the name was Ethos. It's a bit related to the ZDay movement, although I'm not entirely aware of what the connection is, but there's a lot of ideas that were taken on and put into that documentary. I felt that it was a bit diluted to a certain extent, but the point is that they've used Woody Harrelson as a presenter for this documentary. And, coming from that, I work in the car design business, which is more or less like advertising publicity, and I'm trained, conditioned to think a bit in this way. And I'm looking at all these movie stars, and in the case of Woody Harrelson that was promoting that documentary, and I'm thinking, shouldn't our communications team maybe concentrate their efforts into getting a lot of these famous people in, and kind of getting them to spread our message, because their impact is 1,000 times more than what my impact would be into just kind of getting the people to understand what this is all about. As I'm giving the example of Tom Cruise, for example, who is a famous Scientologist, although I don't even know what Scientology is all about. It's probably
Excuse me, what's your question?
Yeah, the question is, do you think this is a healthy direction that the movement should pursue right now into trying to get in these famous people like singers or whatever?
No, absolutely. There's a project called the Zeitgeist Media Festival, which is a derivative of our Zeitgeist Media Project, which is currently a website where people upload various media that they've created that support the movement. It's really an artistic kind of outlet. And with the festival, I'm going to do my best when I try this, hopefully late summer, to get as many famous people, or at least well-known people, people that have an audience to come and perform at this. Hopefully volunteer. But there's a few people that really have shown an interest to do so. I completely agree that probably over politicians, over philosophers, people pay more attention to media personalities than anything else. I mean, our values, I think, in the Western world is really groomed by the movies that people watch and the TV shows that they watch, from my experience. Probably more so than anything else. It's almost quite scary when you see the influence that they have. So yes, it's critically important. I didn't see the Ethos documentary. They contacted me and wanted to use chunks of my movie that's in it, and I had no idea when I saw it, because someone sent it to me, I'm like, well, how do they use this? And I got a little bit irritated because I didn't have memory of it. Nevertheless, Woody Harrelson being there really surprised me, so that's amazing that they were able to do that. You know? So I completely agree. And anyone that has connections to any media personalities, I know that there was a campaign to contact lots of media personalities that were socially active a number of months back on the global website. So, yeah, hopefully, I think if we get maybe 2 or 3, then the breach will be made, and others will step forward and be able to not feel uncomfortable by supporting this direction. I think it would be wonderful. I think it's also right around the corner, frankly. I know underneath the surface there are a lot of celebrities that you mentioned to me that do support this direction, but they don't come out. They don't come out when we talk about it, because it's their identity that's at stake, so it has to be comfortable. So.
Right, last question, and it goes to this guy here.
Thank you. Hi, Peter. I've just got 2 questions. My first one relates to hydrocarbon technology, our addiction to it, and how do we wean ourselves off this technology and the geopolitics associated to it. How do you see us getting from where we are heavily addicted to the Venus Project where we are not addicted? I know you've had a lot of questions about how do we get from here to there, but my question is mainly focused on energy. My second question is, have you considered a move into politics to take the establishment on sort of head on and sort of take the Zeitgeist movement forward to like a voting public where people could even like vote for it?
Well, the second question, politics is really something that at the end of the day would be phased out as we know in the future. It's not a legitimate institution. It's not based on anything but people promoting values. The public identify with those values arbitrarily. No information, no scientific understanding, no education, no scientific knowledge of city planning, of any organization. When Sarah Palin becomes President of the United States, it would not surprise me in a second. It'll be a perfect testimony to what politics actually represents. It's this mind-numbing system of complacency where people feel satisfied when they hit that voting button so they don't have to ever think about anything anymore. It's a self-generating oppression system.
I guess what I'm saying is it's sort of like it's almost like a step progress in, you know.
I understand what you're saying, and people brought this up to me before, using the political system as some type of soapbox, if you will. And I've had people say, oh yeah, I'll run for whatever, and do it just for the publicity of it, which I believe is important. I think it's being a lot of money to do any kind of political office, right? So if someone has that kind of resource, I wouldn't do it. But I think somebody else, if they want to do it on that platform, especially if someone who's been in politics for a little while that sees the light, but they're already in it, and then they move and do it, because what they're doing is they're moving into a system that they actually want to eradicate, which is a kind of a unique notion in itself. As far as the first question, the energy transition, we could do tremendous energy shifts right now if there was any interest to do so. Unfortunately, the investment that's required is so colossal, and the return is so distant. There's no monetary system driven by short-term gain. And if you can't get short-term gain, you have to no motivation, regardless of the lack of sustainability of the problems on the horizon. They should have been doing, even for the hype on global warming, climate destabilization, regardless of what you believe, it's obvious an element of the system that supports it, and that's the need for monetary acquisition at all costs and maximization of that. And unfortunately, and that's why it's brought up in the film the way it is, everything that this system is about is against what you talk about, even with non-profit institutions, even with governments. Look at all the attempts that's been made to try and get governments for decades now to change its energy policies, and what good has it done? Even the Green Party, it's just, you'd think that the public would be all about a Green Party in some country, but they're they can't see it. They have far too much experience with their little dyad and liberals and Democrats and the arbitrariness, and they're not comfortable even moving into something new, unfortunately. So all I throw my hands in the air and say, I wish what you state would easily come to fruition. Obviously, your logic is sound, so I agree with that. But will it happen? Something's going to happen, that's for sure. Yeah. You know that.
Anybody's got a spare ticket for ZDay tomorrow, can they contact the gallery there? If you have, but I doubt you have, because... I got one. Oh, cool. Thank you all for coming, everybody.
I got one, but I promised to someone.
Cars are promoting it. That's to be a design project. Something like this.
I think so.
Is it Alex?
Yeah.
That was a one-way system, which means that we'll have to go.
Sorry, we had them. They disappeared pretty quick. Yeah, I know. We only had so much money. That was basically not profit. We just have enough to cover the things. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming. Yep. Thank you. Thanks.
Say hello.